Hi everyone, this is Taylor Drake, New Horizons Ministries. Thanks for joining me today. When I travel around to youth groups on Wednesdays and Sundays and I talk about conference events that are going on as well as doing an apologetic lesson, I always have a time for Q&A at the very end of our sessions. And a couple of times I've been asked the question I've been most asked is what books are really helpful for developing your apologetic methods and skills? And it's a really good question, and so I want to take a little bit of time and just kind of help point you in the direction of some really, really good books that I would recommend for anyone who's wanting to jump into apologetics and kind of begin to focus on logic and reason and philosophy and how this is also helpful for defending the faith. The first book that I'm going to recommend is, of course, the Bible. It is the book from which all of our doctrine flows from, all of our religious beliefs, our practices, the name of God as well. So before you even jump into any other text, first and foremost, you need to know the Scripture, which tells us what we believe and why we believe it, and reveals to us God and our relationship with Him. There is no more important book than the Bible when it comes to defending the faith. More times than not, we see that most people think of God as simply a concept or as an idea, and we need to recognize that we are not defending a concept or an idea. While we may defend Christianity, which is a religious set of beliefs, more importantly, we're showing why belief in God, not belief in an idea, but rather belief in a person, is reasonable. And that becomes problematic for some people because God obviously is a timeless, spaceless, transcendental, very powerful yet personal being. So God's not an idea, He's not a concept, He is a person. And I think that's where a lot of people get really confused. Once again, we're not defending God as a concept, we're defending Christianity as a religious belief and why it makes sense based on God's self-revelation. So the very first book that I'm going to point us towards, probably the most accessible and best book on apologetics right now, is On Guard by William Lane Craig. Probably the most dominating and impressive Christian apologist in the world right now. He's been debating for over 30 years in the public setting, and he just does an amazing job. I reference this book constantly in my teachings and in my writings, as well as in my lectures. This is good classical apologetics. Classical apologetics is essentially saying that we need to bring people to a reasonable expectation that there could be a God, and then explain why Jesus is that God. So great book. Fantastic source material. I encourage you to read it. The next one is probably the most classic piece on this. It's Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. This is probably one of the most important books in the 21st century when it comes to Christian apologetics. It's a cumulative case, and Lewis makes a point that just from observing the universe, by observing the world, by questioning where right and wrong come from, we arrive at the conclusion of God. But then more impressively, we arrive at the conclusion of Jesus being God. Fantastic source. I try to read it once a year. One of my favorite books of all time, and definitely essential for those who are really wanting to get into apologetics. Next was actually the first book I read in college on apologetics. It's The 5 Views of Apologetics. It is from Zondervan. It's a counterpoints Bible and theology book, which means essentially that it's only Christian authors. And this book is helpful because it covers the 5 views of apologetics: the classical method, the evidential method, the presuppositional method, the cumulative method, and the reformed epistemological method. And what's nice is that each of those methods is represented and explained by one of the primary holders of that perspective, and then after he does his little spiel on it, it's probably 20-30 pages per example, then the other 4 will comment on it. So it's very much an iron sharpening iron, discussing the philosophical or logical issues within that framework and then how it works really, really well. So this is a great book, a great reference material. The most recent book that I got, and I'm really enjoying right now, it's called the Dictionary of Christianity and Science. We live in a world that seems to think that somehow Christianity and science go, they don't go hand in hand, that they contradict each other, and we know that's not true. Science would not be possible unless we believed in the observable, actual, tangible universe, which we believe God created. So this is really interesting because it is a dictionary, but it covers a variety of topics like Adam and Eve, whether they were real or literary characters, the age of the earth, climate change, evolution, fossil records, the Genesis flood, miracles, cosmology, the Big Bang theory, bioethics, Darwinism, death, extraterrestrial life, multiverse, string theory, and so many more. Over 140 people have written on this, and there's almost 500 entries, I think, in this text. But any controversial topic that Christians disagree on, it actually presents both sides in this text. It's a fantastic text to help ministers be able to address modern day issues. So definitely encourage you to check that out. Another book that we're actually providing, that I provide for the ministers when I go to their churches on Wednesday, it's called the New City Catechism. This is a book of 52 questions and 52 answers, and it's designed essentially like this. You have a question and an answer, and then you have the Bible verse right here that goes with it. The supplement material to this is the devotional. And again, you can get all these, everything I've listed so far, you can get on Amazon.com or Mardel, I think. But this includes commentary from modern historians, theologians, and pastors, and also older theologians, historians, and pastors. So like St. Augustine, John Wesley, John Calvin. It's a great source material, but we provide these for the youth ministers that I travel around to when I get to speak at the churches. But again, check these out. These are fantastic sources. They're asking 52 foundational questions of Christianity and then answering them, which is a really, really good idea, I think. Next is one of the most important books in the 20th century is The Kingdom of the Cults, and this is actually an analysis of all modern religions right now, especially those who claim to be Christian, such as Jehovah's Witnesses or Latter-day Saints, and in their conversations on why they actually aren't Christians. It's an excellent analysis of false religions, of teachings that claim to be Christian but are in such error that they are heretical and unbiblical and cannot be considered a part of historical traditional Christianity. Excellent book, very resourceful, also very, very easy to read, which is really helpful. I dislike books that are constantly up here with their lingo and their language, but are easy to access and easy to understand. The next book that I would encourage you to get is actually one of my school textbooks when I was teaching at Augustine Christian Academy. The Amazing Dr. Ransom's Bestiary of Adorable Fallacies. Now, this may seem kind of odd. This has actually nothing to do with apologetics, but rather apologetics is us using our mind to defend the faith and why it is reasonable and to show that Jesus is God and that God is a knowable being and that he's revealed himself. Most of the arguments that I hear against the existence of God fall into two camps. Number one, emotional arguments, or just bad thinking, which we call fallacies. A fallacy is a break in logical thinking, and this contains 49 fallacies and why they logically don't make sense. So this is a fun, easy read. There's questions and answers at the back of the text. I encourage you to check this out. It's an easy, fun, adorable read, and every fallacy has an adorable critter that's not so adorable when you get to know them. I'm currently reading a book right now, and so I'm not recommending it, but I'm enjoying it so far. It's The Consciousness and the Existence of God, a theistic argument by J.P. Moreland, explaining how that the mind and the brain are different, and how if there is a mind, then that actually helps prove reasonably that there is a God, since God is not a tangible being, but rather a metaphysical supernatural entity, much like our minds, which is really interesting. So I'm really enjoying this right now. Last but not least, somebody, I can't remember what church it was, I was asked if I had read any other types of theological or philosophical material that I disagreed with, and my answer to them was yes. I've read the Quran, book on Scientology, the Book of Mormon, which is really interesting because years ago, when somebody asked me if I was studying Islam, I said yes, I was, and their response was, well, don't read the Quran, you'll lose your faith. And that really bothered me because I think that's a prevailing mentality right now, that if we read something contrary to what we believe to be true, that we will somehow lose our faith or be convinced that we were wrong, and jump ship, as it were, to a different religion. And I find this to be false. Now, I think that they were saying this out of concern, because there are people who leave the faith after studying and reading other religions. My question is always going to be, did they really believe to begin with? If all it takes is for me to read another book to completely change my faith, I probably didn't have faith to begin with. But there's also the idea of different levels of spiritual maturity. That the deeper your relationship with God is, the more intimate you are with Him, the more time you're in, scripture and prayer and community, that there are levels of maturity, and certain Christians can handle other texts and other types of texts. Now, I'm not going to give a new Christian the Book of Mormon and say, see, now examine and compare these so you can see how the Book of Mormon is wrong. I wouldn't do that. That's something you wait for years on down the line to accomplish. So I think it's also a bit of spiritual maturity, knowing what you can and can't spiritually digest. As Paul says, you go from milk to meat. And apologetics, you stay with milk for a while. I feel that I'm still drinking milk, and I haven't moved on to meat in some instances. If you have any other questions, you can email me at nhmmultimedia@gmail.com. I hope this is a good starting point. If you have any other questions about the books, or why these books, more in depth if you'd like, I'd love to talk to you about it. And until then, I'll see you later. Blessings.